First of all, you need to download the SQL Server installation software. So you're already in the page, but you go to your favorite browser and you simply search for SQL Server installation. And you make sure to select the Microsoft.com website, not any other website. It's highly recommended to use the official website always. Here, as you can see, we have different versions. SQL Server on Azure, which is on the cloud. We have at the edge, it's for IoT stuff and real time. It's also on Azure. And what we want is the SQL Server on premises. However, these three versions are paying or enterprise versions. We want to download the developer version because it is free. It's for testing and development purpose. As long as you do not use a production environment, it's okay and it's free. We download this one. You could also use the Express version. It's very lightweight version of SQL Server, but we want to use the full version to see some of its capabilities. You click on download now. It's super small. It is something like 4 megabytes, as you can see. In reality, the real installation is about 1.2 gigabytes. And this one is going to download the installation software. So you double click on the exe file, you select yes. And here you have different versions. This one allows you to download the full media installation, the setup files. We want to use this custom installation. I keep it by default, so it's under my C drive. It will use the SQL 2022 folder. And you see here, the download will be 1.2 gigabytes, and the minimum free space is about 8.5 gigabytes for the full installation. Once it's downloaded, you have the SQL Server installation that is opening. It's something that it was already there in the previous versions. It's very similar, version after version. It's enriched, and you have new features and more connectivity with Azure. We'll see how to do a basic installation. One interesting tool is just this one is the system configuration checker to see if your hardware and software, meaning the OS, is compatible, if it's ready to host the SQL Server without any trouble. For example, you could have an old version of the .NET framework, and then you could simply update it to be compatible. That's it, so we are good. Now we can go to the second step. Here we are on planning. We can go to installation. Here you have multiple choices. You could, for example, upgrade from a previous version of SQL Server. What I just did before, I had SQL Server 2019 installed. I just completely uninstalled it. So I want a fresh installation. We start with the first one, new SQL Server standalone installation. Here you have different versions. You keep it as developer because it looks like it's the same software. So if you had a real production installation, you should be able to enter the product key or to pay through a Microsoft Azure subscription. You just keep developer, you select next. Of course, you need to agree with the license terms, otherwise you cannot go ahead. One warning about the Windows firewall. It should not be a problem, so we keep it as a warning, no problem. For the moment, I will not install the Azure extension for SQL Server. Be aware that if you want to enrich your installation, you can just go back and rerun the installation and maintain your SQL Server installation. So it's not a problem. I untick the Azure extension. I just want typical on-premises SQL Server installation. I select next. And here it's interesting because you have a lot of very specific components. So we're just going to select the database engine services for the moment. And of course, the integration services. We do not want these scaling operations because SSIS can have a master and what they call worker servers to have more power when dealing with the workload. We will not see that in this lecture because it's advanced topics. We just select database engine services and integration services. And we can go ahead. You might know that the default instance of SQL Server is always named MS SQL Server. You can change and name it differently. For the moment, we don't want to change this one because we have just one instance. If you install a second instance, then you must change its name. You click on select. Now we need to set up the accounts. This is the account you want to use for each services. The startup type. The manual startup type means you need to go and run it manually. If you use it as automatic, it means whenever you restart your laptop or server, it will automatically start. I want to put them both, or all of them as automatic here. Here it's creating some specific technical accounts, and we are not going to change these ones. Collation is fine for me. I'm based in Switzerland. There is one good practice to use is to create a dedicated technical account, and you want to run this account with that. You never run, especially on the server, you never run the SQL services with an actual Windows user, with a personal account, because you must be logged in to have the services run smoothly. So you never do that. You always use technical accounts. We keep them as they are. Here we want to use a mixed mode. This is super important. You have either the pure Windows authentication mode or you have a mixed mode. SQL Server authentication is login and password. The Windows authentication means it will be using whatever account you are logged with, it will use this account. So we want to have both, and we want to set up a strong password for the SR account because in case you cannot log in, you need to have at least 2 administrators. So first of all, you add the current user, which is myself. The SR account stands for System Administrator, and it has all the rights. It's really the super administrator of your SQL Server instance, and you do not want to lose this password. So you select a strong password, save it safely, and we should be good to go. Let's just double check the default installation of the directories. So by default, you have this structure of folders to store data and backup, and this stands for the versions of SQL Server. If you have different versions, the previous one might be MS SQL 15 and MS SQL 14, etc. So you just keep it as is. It should work perfectly. You keep the initial sizing. As long as you don't have very big databases, it will be fine. Memory, okay. File stream, okay. So this we don't touch the other options. I repeat, we just do a basic installation. You select next. Now you have the summary of what the system is going to install. Might take some time, so you can go and grab a coffee. After a few minutes, the installation is done. You have a summary that you can click here to see. I just click on it. So it's just a few details about your installation configuration and what was done. install is successful. Of course, if you have any issues, you need to troubleshoot before you go to the next step. You can close the setup. I close the SQL Server Installation Center. And super important, you need to restart your laptop at every major installation. And if it's not done, go to Windows Update on your Windows laptop and make sure you have all the latest libraries and .NET versions. I just restarted my laptop, and we need now to learn how to check the SQL Server services. To do that, you just click here and you type services. So this will open system services. So it's very easy. So you sort them by name by clicking here. You just type SQ. So it will be directly going to the SQL Server services. It's automatic. So that is something special because the status was not up to date, but now I just started. And just to go back to this automatic startup type, it's a delayed start. So after you reboot your laptop, after a while, you will have the services that go back to their initial state. So if it was running, if it was started before you restart your laptop, it will be running again. Have in mind that you try to connect to your database. If you have an error, make sure to double check the services, the SQL Server browser and the SQL Server. It's very important. And also the SSIS, but for SSIS, it's a little bit special because as long as you have Visual Studio running, it will be using its own local SSIS service. This service here will be more when you deploy your packages to the SQL Server and run them from the server. But just make sure that whenever you want to connect, you have at least SQL Server, SQL Server Agent, and SQL Server Browser running and know how to check them and start them. So what I do personally is that I always have a shortcut here on my Windows taskbar. And whenever I need, I just go here, click, and check the status of the services, whether it's on your local machine or on the server. The lecture about how to download, install, and start the SQL Server and SSIS services is over. I see you on the next one.